In discussions of biblical prophecy, particularly concerning the end times, one quickly encounters a dense web of interpretations. Books, sermons, and television programs often portray a dramatic, apocalyptic future, a singular Antichrist rising to power, a secret rapture snatching away the faithful, a 7-year global tribulation, and the eternal torment of the damned in hellfire. But how much of this framework is actually found in the Bible itself? The surprising answer, not as much as most people think. Many of the most popular end-time beliefs are not grounded in the plain reading of Scripture, but are theological constructs built atop fragmented verses, often drawn out of context and stitched together into a cohesive narrative, only in much later eras. Here are 5 major examples where biblical texts have been misunderstood or co-opted to support frameworks that the biblical authors themselves likely never envisioned. 1. The myth of a singular future Antichrist. The term Antichrist appears only in the epistles of John, 1 John 2:18, 2:22, 4:3, 2 John chapter 7, and there it refers not to one apocalyptic figure but to anyone who denies that Jesus is the Christ, or who does not confess Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. Over time, interpreters fuse this term with unrelated figures from other parts of Scripture. The little horn in Daniel, the man of sin in 2 Thessalonians, and the beast of Revelation. This composite Antichrist became a towering villain in the Christian imagination, but no such unified character exists in the Bible. In context, Antichrist describes heretical teachers threatening early Christian communities, not a global political leader of the end times. 2. Eternal hellfire, an imported concept. Contrary to popular belief, the Old Testament contains no clear doctrine of hell as a place of eternal torment. The Hebrew word Sheol simply refers to the grave or the shadowy realm of the dead, experienced by all, righteous and wicked alike. The New Testament occasionally uses the term Gehenna, which originally referred to a literal valley outside Jerusalem associated with defilement and fire. Later interpreters, influenced by Greek philosophical dualism and intertestamental Jewish apocalypticism, reimagined Gehenna as a metaphysical realm of punishment. While Revelation speaks of a lake of fire, these images are deeply symbolic and were never universally interpreted as describing a literal, eternal torture chamber, until theologians like Tertullian and Augustine shaped Christian thought in that direction. 3. The rapture, a 19th century invention. One of the most sensational doctrines in modern evangelicalism is the idea of the rapture, the sudden secret snatching away of believers before a time of great tribulation. This concept is rooted in a single verse, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4:17, which speaks of believers being caught up in the air to meet the Lord. But Paul's intent was pastoral, comforting believers who feared that their dead would miss Christ's return, not predictive of an invisible evacuation. The elaborate pre-tribulation rapture doctrine emerged in the 1830s through the teachings of John Nelson Darby and the Plymouth Brethren. It has no precedent in church history and is absent from the writings of the early church fathers. 4. The 7-year tribulation, a misreading of Daniel. Daniel 9:27 speaks of a week, symbolic of 7 years, in which a covenant is made and broken, leading to desolation. In its historical context, this prophecy addresses the desecration of the Second Temple under Antiochus IV Epiphanes in the 2nd century BCE, or, in Christian interpretation, it climaxes in the life and passion of Christ. Modern prophecy teachers, especially within dispensationalist circles, lift this verse out of context and treat it as an unfulfilled end-times prediction. But this reading bypasses the prophetic genre's symbolic nature and imposes a rigid chronological framework foreign to the original meaning. 5. The end of the world, misconstrued as annihilation. Biblical eschatology is rich with imagery of cosmic upheaval, but the overall thrust of Scripture is not one of destruction, but of renewal. Isaiah speaks of a new heavens and new earth, Isaiah 65:17, and Revelation concludes not with escape to heaven, but with the new Jerusalem descending to earth, a restored creation. The idea that the world will be utterly destroyed and abandoned stems more from Platonic dualism than from biblical teaching. Christianity's core hope is resurrection, not escape, transformation, not obliteration. Conclusion: a theology built on fragments. The modern end times narrative, popularized in novels, movies, and pulpits, is not so much a biblical vision as it is a theological collage, constructed by stitching together disparate verses from Daniel, Revelation, Thessalonians, and the Gospels, often stripped from their context and reassembled to support a particular worldview. This is not to say that eschatology is unimportant or that prophecy has no place in Christian theology. But a responsible approach must return to the text itself, honor its historical context, and distinguish between inspired imagery and later doctrinal systems. Much of what passes for biblical prophecy today reflects more about our anxieties and imagination than the message of the biblical authors. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.